Hi guys, and welcome to part 2 of your health and wellness project. This part is going to focus on nutrition and diet, and we're going to have you look at your own diet in this project so that you're better equipped to make recommendations for your client in your health and wellness center. We're coming off of 2 laboratories where you looked at the amount of calories in food as well as how do we find out what macromolecules are in food. And so now that you know how we determine those 2 things, you can be more trusting of the food label on various packages and also the food information that you can obtain from various websites. So let's get started in the project. So you've all been given this health and wellness project information sheet by your proctor, and you can have read over it. Hopefully by now you've also obtained a laptop from the cart, turned it on, and logged in. That way, as we go through today's lesson, you can follow along and work at your own pace. So if you haven't done so, open the Microsoft Excel program, because we're going to use this Microsoft Excel program to record some of the foods that we eat over the course of a 3-day period. As you read in the introduction there, you're going to look at your own diet and nutrition over the course of 3 days and record all of the macromolecules that you consume. And then you're going to list all the foods that you eat, along with the macromolecules that are in them, the mass that's of the food that you ate, and the calorie content that you ate, and organize that into a spreadsheet. And Microsoft Excel is a wonderful spreadsheet program. Many of you probably have used it before, but if not, this tutorial will give you the basics so that you can be successful. Eventually, you will use this information to create a diet and nutritional plan for your client based on some information that I give you. And so if you've looked through the sheet, you'll notice that steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 will do now. Step 5 will save toward later in the quarter. So right now you're focusing on steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this tutorial video is focused on step number 3. And your proctor is also knowledgeable in Microsoft Excel and can give you some hints today and tomorrow as to how best to go about setting up your project. Notice also that under step 4 that the due date for this project is on Tuesday, November the 27th. So you have a couple of weeks to do that. Some students in the past have chosen Thanksgiving dinner to be part of their 3 days of recording, although that's a lot of food, and if your plate looks like mine at Thanksgiving dinner, you're making quite a lot of work for yourself. But some students are eager to tackle that challenge. Otherwise, you might record 3 days of food that you eat this week or over this coming weekend, sometime next week, so that over the Thanksgiving break you can finalize your project and turn it in. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to scroll down here in this document and look specifically at number 3. So looking at step 3 here, I'm going to talk about the following 8 skills today in Microsoft Excel. And as we go through each one, you can use your laptop to practice or follow along. If you get stuck, you can raise your hand and the proctor can help you with any questions you might have. And then certainly I'll make this link available to you. It's a YouTube video, so you can go to YouTube and find it. I'll give you the link in that classroom. And so if I go too fast or you want to go back and review, you can certainly do that on your own anytime between now and the end of the project. So what I'm going to show you to do, and there's certainly a lot more to do in Excel than just these things, but I think this is the minimum that I can teach you to get you started, is how to label, create, and delete worksheets, how to enter data into a cell. The spaces in Microsoft Excel are called cells. How to format data in a cell. How to program a cell to calculate a value for you. How to insert basic functions like sum and average into a cell. How to incorporate data in one worksheet into another. How to use conditional formatting. How to use the graphing wizard to create a graph of your data. And if you're able to do most of those things already, great. And if you're not, then I think you'll need to be able to do those for being successful in this project. And at the end of the video, I'll show you some projects from years past that I find are particularly helpful as models for you going forward. So let's get started. So when you open up Microsoft Excel, you'll get a sheet that looks like this. And you're in the File menu at the moment. And so what you have here is what's called a worksheet. And if you look here at the bottom, at the sheet where my cursor is running around, you'll see it says Sheet 1. I just clicked on Sheet 2 and Sheet 3. And you can see that there are different sheets that you can tab through. You can add many, many sheets. If you wanted to label that sheet so that you know what's on it, you can right-click on that sheet, and you'll see a box comes up, and you can click Rename. And now the sheet name at the bottom is highlighted, and I can call this, say, Day 1 of my project. If I hit Enter, then it now remains there. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on Sheet 2 and hit Rename. I'm going to call this Day 2. And I'm going to click on Sheet 3 and rename that and call it Day 3. If I want to create a new sheet, there's a little box right there with looks like a little index card with a little starburst next to it. And if I put my mouse over it, it says Insert Worksheet. I can click on that and get a Sheet 4 if I need it. I'm going to actually call Sheet 4, rename. I'm going to call that References. You can call it Works Cited or Resources. This is a place where I can stash things that I need as I go through. Okay. What if I decided that I added a sheet, we'll call it Sheet 5, and I realized I don't want Sheet 5 in my program? I once again can right-click on it, and you can see there's an option for deleting it, and that'll delete the entire sheet. So that covers Step A, how to label, create, and delete worksheets. So let's go back to Sheet 1, Day 1 here. How to enter data into a cell. Well, you can see that right now there is a box in this, what looks like a graph. And you can see that there's one box that has a dark, heavy line around it. And if you look up to the top of that grid there's a series of letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You'll notice that D is highlighted orange. And then if you look to the left of the grid, you'll see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so forth. And number 4 is highlighted in orange. So what that means is that the box with the bold lines around it is cell D4. It has a name, D4. And so if I enter data, I can enter anything that I want. It sits in cell D4, and it can be treated as a chunk of information. So let's say that I want to put in the word, let's say I had for lunch today a sandwich. And I hit Tab, and now I'm in box E4. Well, let's say I wanted to put in the fact that that sandwich weighed 200 grams. I can put that in as well. Now, whenever I put text into a box, it treats it as text, even if there are numbers and text as well. So what you might want to do when you have numbers is, instead of putting it in 200 grams like I did, put in the number 200, and then put grams in a second box, like I did in F4 here, or you can put in the top of the grid above it maybe a label for that column. So I might call it weight, and then in parentheses put the word gram, so that I know that all the things in that column are in the unit of grams. And so I can enter data in the cell in that fashion. And so that covers Part B, how to enter data into a cell. So how to format that data once it's in there. Anything that I put in these cells is going to be standard text the way you see it now. But what if I wanted to make that text bigger, or turn it to a bold or italicized font, or change the font, or do any of those things? Well, just like in most Microsoft products, there is a Home tab that has a lot of those formatting functions for you. So if I go up to the Home tab next to the File tab at the top, you'll see that it looks very similar to maybe Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint in the way that it has some functions for formatting. So let's say that I wanted to make this word sandwich bold. I can go up to that font area, go up to bold, and click bold, and make it so. I could make the number 200 If I want to make that italicized, I could do that as well by clicking the italics button under font, the I. If I wanted to make the word grams underlined, I can go up to the font button and click on the U here and make it underlined. If I wanted to make the word weight a different font, I can click on that cell, go to the drop-down menu where it says Calibri font right now, and I can pick any number of fonts and change it. I changed it to Antique Olive. Now notice right now that the text that I have in that cell is extending beyond the cell, and as long as nothing is in the cells adjoining it, that text will overlap and you'll be able to see it. But what if I started putting something in column F? Let's call it calories. Now my text in column E is cut off in cell E3. So I can fix that. If I go up in this area where the letters are and put my cursor between two columns, you'll see I get this dark line with two arrows going in opposite directions. And if I have that little icon there and I click on that line between the two columns, what I can do is I can make the columns resize to whatever the longest or largest text is in them. And so that's pretty helpful for expanding the cells. All right. If I wanted to make the cell a certain color, I can actually change the colors of various cells. So I'm going to make this calorie cell yellow. I can go up to the font button and you'll see that there's a little paint bucket with a yellow color there. Through the drop-down menu, I have a whole variety of colors to choose from. I'm going to go with like a nice light orange here. Click on that, and it will make the whole cell orange. Highlight that. If I wanted to make that text a different color, I could go down to this text button here and drop-down menu, and I can make the text brown, or maybe make the text dark purple and change the colors there. You don't want to get carried away with color, because if it looks like a rainbow, it's very hard for people to read and navigate. But sometimes color might be useful to offset certain headings, certain information, and you'll want to be able to do that pretty well. So that covers a little bit how to format data in a cell. One thing that I wanted to cover before I get to letter D is that you don't have to change one cell at a time. If you highlight a series of cells, you can change all of the cells that you highlight at the same time. So let's say I put in a variety of data here. I have some chips, and they turned out to be 140 grams. And I had a cookie, and it turned out to be 50 grams. And I had a drink, and let's say it was 300 grams. Well, if I wanted to make all of those pieces of information the same as my sandwich, I can highlight all the cells that have chips, cookie, and drink, and click on the bold, and it will make them all bold. And if I click on the cells that have all of the numbers and I want to make them all italicized, click on italics and make them all italicized. So I can do this for multiple cells. If I wanted to change something in the entire worksheet, up here at the very corner between where the A and the 1 is, there's a little square box that's half shaded. If I click on that, it actually selects my entire worksheet. And now whatever I do will apply to the entire worksheet. So you can kind of select everything at once if you want to for any kind of function. Let's move to step D. How to program a cell to calculate a value for you. Well, now you see I have the weights of some of my foods here. And I want to know how much food did I eat. Well, what I can do is I can program a formula into a cell that will allow me to figure this out. If I want something to calculate, I need to tell Excel that it's going to do that. And I do that by putting in an equal sign first. That tells Excel that what is going to be in the cell is going to equal whatever I tell it to do afterwards. And what I want it to do is I want it to add all of those cells above that have numbers in it for weight. So cell E4, E5, E6, E7. And so I can do that just by writing out a mathematical expression. I can write E4 plus E5 plus E6 plus E7. And you can see that every time I put in those cell numbers and cell codes, it highlights the cell that I was talking about and puts a little box around it. And the color of the box corresponds to the color of the formula in in my color of the code in my formula. And when I finish, I hit enter. You'll see that I get the total added up. I could also do this. I'm going to go down to cell E10. Another way, I can actually do it just like a calculator. I can put an equal sign, and rather than use the cell numbers, I can put in 200 plus 140 plus 50 plus 300. Just actually use the numbers, and it will calculate the same number for me. What is the difference? Well, let's say that I made a mistake, and my cookie wasn't 50 grams. It actually turned out to be 75. If I click in 75 now and change it, notice what happens to my cells. In cell E8, it changed because it knows that it needs to add up these 4 cells. And so if they change, the calculation here will change. Down here, the number did not change because I did not put in the cell name, I put in the actual number. And so I would suggest that you should use the cell codes whenever you do addition, because if you go back and make a change to Excel, everything will update. But if you go back and use the actual numbers, it won't. For adding, there's also an easy way of doing this. You can actually use a function. If I go into Excel and hit equal and hit sum, sum means to add, right? And put in a parentheses. You'll notice that when I do that, it gives me a little box that says sum parentheses number 1 comma number 2. And what I need to do is tell it what cells I want it to add. So I take my mouse up here to or the weight column where I've been adding before, and I click on the first cell and I drag it down so that I get all the cells I want to add. And you'll notice that my expression in cell E11 has updated. It says now equal sum parentheses E4 colon E7, which means it's going to add all the cells in E4 to E7. And if I click end the parentheses and hit enter, it will calculate that number just like it did when I added up each individual cell. There's a shortcut to this at the very top menu under editing on the far top right. You'll see it says auto sum. And so if I put that, like my cursor somewhere into a cell, in a blank cell, I'm going to get rid of all these things that I calculated already, and I'm going to delete them right now. And let's say if I put that right underneath all of my numbers and hit auto sum, it automatically looks for a set of numbers above where I've clicked to see what it could add, and it's found that expression for me already, and all I need to do now is hit enter and it auto sums it for me. It's really nice. So hopefully that will help you to get started calculating values in Excel. So I've covered step D there. We'll come back in a few seconds and cover E, F, G, and H, but take a few minutes, pause the video, and practice those skills so far. Alright, welcome back, and you'll see here that I've made some changes to my Excel sheet. I've done some improvements and added some more data so that I can show you some other tricks that you can do in Excel to use a spreadsheet to organize your data for your diet and nutrition project. First thing I'm going to do is talk about how you can take information from one worksheet and put it into another. First of all, you can use your copy and paste function here, just like you can use a copy and paste function in Word or in PowerPoint or other Microsoft products. So I can either select the cells that I want to copy or the entire worksheet. When I select the cells I want to copy, I'm going to start in the top left cell that I want to select, and I can just drag it and drag my mouse so that I highlight all the cells I want to copy. And if I go up to the menu up here at clipboard, I click the copy function, or I can use Control-C, hit copy, and then let's say I want to put this same kind of format and everything into day 2. I can go over to day 2 and click on a cell where I want to put it. Let's say I want to put it in B3, and I can go and click paste, and it will paste everything in there. If I want to paste other things, I can go down to the drop-down menu under paste, and it'll ask me for some different things. I can paste the formulas, or the cell formatting, all of those different things. Let me paste the functions, number formatting, keep the source formatting there, and you'll see what it looks like if you cover over any of those. And so I've copied that. If I want to copy the whole worksheet, so I'm going back to day 1 here, and I can click on that little box up at the top left between the A and the 1, and once again, highlight the entire worksheet, hit copy, and go to day 3, and hit paste, and it will paste the entire worksheet in to day 3. So either way, whatever is easier, if you want to click this, copy and paste a section or the whole worksheet, you can do that. You also can incorporate data from one worksheet into another. So let's say that I wanted to, I'm going back to day 1 here, I wanted to have the data from here available to another worksheet, even though I'm going to change things. Let's say I go back to day 2, and on day 2, I had the same lunch as day 1. I need to change my day up here. Day 2 is going to be Tuesday, November 20th. My first day was Monday, November 19th, just for argument's sake. You'll see there a sandwich. Maybe I had a sandwich and it was a little different. It had 300 calories in it. And maybe I didn't have chips. Maybe I had Doritos, and they were 150 grams, and they were 220 calories. And then I had an apple, and it was weighed maybe, well, let's say 200 grams and had 80 calories, and so forth. But my drink, let's say that I didn't have any drink information here. I'm going to delete my drink information. But I realized that I had the same drink every day. I'm a boring person, and I drink the same drink every day. Well, I can actually make this value here equal to something in another worksheet. Put in my equal sign, and then I go back to the day 1 worksheet, and I'm going to click on that value, the weight, 300 grams of my drink. And notice up here in the sum function in this argument box, it's saying that my equal sign is equal to day 1 worksheet, exclamation point E7. And so when I hit enter, I'll go back to day 2 and notice that right in the drink, it's filled in 300 for me. But watch what happens. If I go back to the day 1 tab and I change that drink and realize maybe it wasn't 300 grams, maybe it was only 250 grams. If I go back to day 2, it's changed it there as well. Those two cells, even though they're in different worksheets, are now linked. They're equivalent to each other. So that's something that you can do as well if you want to copy things from worksheet to worksheet. Let's go back to day 1 because it's all filled out and nice and organized for me. One other trick you want to see is notice that down here where the box that's highlighted right now is the total weight for all of my food. But you see that I filled in the calories column, the carbohydrates column, the proteins column, and the fat column. I want to total those up as well. So what I can do is I can take my little mouse and I can hover right over this little tiny dot at the bottom of this box here. You'll see it's got a dark border around the total, 665. But if I bring my little mouse up there, I get a little plus sign. I can drag that plus sign over to the other boxes that are below my other columns, and let them go. And you'll see that what it does is it copies the formula of the total, summing up my values over. But instead of using the weight column, it uses the column that's above each respective cell. So my total calories is 950. My carbohydrates are 87. 5 grams of protein, 12 grams of fat. Pretty amazing. All right. Conditional formatting. I can make cells look pretty by changing colors or fonts or making them bold. But I can do that manually like I've already showed you. But I also can make it happen based on the value. So let's look here and say, let's look at the calories column for a minute. I want to know whenever a food is over 200 calories. That's a high calorie food. I want to be able to know that. And so if I go up here to the Styles menu at the top where it says Conditional Formatting, I can click on that. Notice I've already highlighted all of the boxes down here where I have calorie data. So I'm clicking on Conditional Formatting. And I want to set a new rule. And here's what I want to do. I want to choose the second option here where it says select a rule type. I want to format only cells that contain. And down here under the edit rule description, I want the cell value to be greater or equal to 400. And if that's the case, what I want to do in formatting is I want to make it bright red. I want to make the number red. I'm going to make the font. I'm going to go to the font, and I'm going to call the font color red. Hit OK. So now I'm going to go back to the fill. I don't want the fill to be red. I just want the font to be red. All right. So now what it does here in the preview is it shows you what will happen if this rule is true. So if I hit OK, you'll notice that my column has changed. My sandwich number is red now because it is 400 or more. My other levels are not. But if I were to change them, if I were to go back and realize my cookie was one of those massive, huge, sugar-filled cookies that had 500 calories in it, if I change that data, it's going to change it to be red because I've told it to conditionally format. Any formatting thing that you can do can be used as a conditional format. So you can make things turn bold, you can make them italicized, you can make them change colors, you can make the cell itself change colors. All those things can be selected as options for formatting. The condition is what you make it. This is something you might want to do if you want to highlight certain foods that are high in certain values or low in certain other values. And lastly, graphing. What if I wanted to graph this data in some way? Well, I can basically highlight it and use the graphing wizard. So let's say I wanted to highlight the carbohydrates and proteins and fats. I want to kind of create a graph that shows how much of each of these foods that I ate. So if I go to the Insert menu, I want to create a column graph. So at the over here where it says Charts, you see I have a whole different other options for charts. Like a column there. I can click the 2D column, and it automatically puts it in there. The only problem is this graph doesn't have any labels on it. So what I can do now, up in the chart tools that appear, I can go to Layout, and you'll see under Labels at the top, I can choose any of those labels and put them in. So the chart title I can choose and call this, I want to call the chart Weight of Macromolecules Eaten. It'll put it in there. I also can go to Axis Titles, and I want the horizontal axis, and I want the title to be below it. And so I want that to be foods or macromolecules, right? Hit enter, and it puts it there. If I want a primary vertical axis, I want weight in grams. I always put my unit in there. And there's my values. All right. So there I create a graph that way. If I wanted these to rather be 1, 2, and 3 to be to include labels, I can actually highlight this row and this row at the same time and do that. If I want to select rows that are not next to each other, I simply highlight carbohydrate, protein, fats, hold down the control key, and then come down here and select the bottom row. And that way I don't need to actually calculate all the other numbers in between if I just want totals. So I can do that. If I do that and have that data highlighted and click on the Insert column menu, you'll see in this second graph that I just created, now it gives me labels in the bottom, tells me the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in grams. But I still have to go in and add the axis labels and the chart title to my chart. This little thing over here is a key, and for one data set you may not need it, so you can click on it and delete it, or you can change it. So that's an option for you as well. All right, so with your Proctor you can practice those skills as well. Create a sample sheet and play around. You'll have the rest of the period today as well as all day tomorrow to just play around, to format, to kind of see how these skills work, and to begin setting up a sheet where you can record your data, and then you can select 3 days to do so and complete step 4. You will take your Microsoft Excel sheet and drop it in the Dropbox, and you will also create a one-page summary of what you learned about from the activity. What kind of rationale did you use to design your sheet? What kind of things did you discover about your own diet? And include that as well. And you'll definitely want to cite your sources. So, before I go, I promised you I'd show you some examples of students who've done this in the past. So let's take a look at some of their projects. Here is a great project from a student last year who basically created a giant chart, and he used the border function to create borders around his cells. But you can see that he did his on Wednesday, November 23rd, Friday, and Saturday. And he listed all of his foods, what food group they belong to, the calories in that food, the carbohydrates, fats, proteins, cholesterol, sodium, and the total amount of grams of that food that he ate. And notice that for every day he has a total column. You'll see here, row 24 here is a total column for Wednesday. He was chicken and skipped Thursday, which, as you might recognize, is Thanksgiving. So he did Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, 3 days. I would like you to do 3 days that are contiguous or together rather than skipping days. Another student, this is another gentleman, who organized his and color-coded the different meals. And what he did was he did all his days on separate worksheets. So you see at the bottom there's diet day 1, diet day 2, diet day 3, and then a last sheet with the 3-day totals. He chose to include vitamins, calcium, iron, and other things. If you note on the rubric, it says that if you do that, you can actually earn extra points and do better on your assignment. That if you include micronutrients and not just the macronutrients. The macronutrients are the minimum that you need to track for this project, but he chose to do some other things as well. And you can see the list of the amount of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and their weight is listed in his project. Another student here did this, and in his case, he highlighted all of his totals. So he made sure the totals were all highlighted. He also did day 1, 2, and 3 on separate pages. And you can see there that he put in his foods, the quantity, the mass, the calories, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And then when it came to micromolecules, he listed them and color-coded them so that the different things were in different colors so that he could easily compare what foods contained what. We said anything that has red in it contained vitamin A, anything with light blue was vitamin C, and so forth. So how do I find this information? Let's go to a site called Nutrition Data, and we can do that. Let's put in apple since it's right in front of us. We're going to search that in the fruits category. And you can see that apple has a lot of different things. We can find it in a lot of different categories. We just want it in the fruits and fruit juices category. Narrow that. And I want to see apple. Just an apple raw with the skin. So let's find that in our list here. Looks like apples raw with the skin is right here. Click on that. And you'll see what it will do is it'll give me the nutrition label for that apple. So for any food that I want, I can find the data label for it. So a single apple, quarter cup, about 125 grams, is a typical serving. The calories are 65 grams, no fat, no cholesterol, 17 grams of total carbohydrates, no proteins. It'll also give me some information about how filling it is and caloric value it has. Those are things the website does. You can look at those and interpret them yourself. They're not as important as giving the actual data. And then down here at the bottom, it tells you how many nutrients it has. And so if you look at the different things, you see that vitamin C and vitamin K are pretty good. The wheel is almost fully colored in for those two nutrients. But for some of the others, it's not so much. So not too much boron and such in these. In the amino acids, they're listing the 8 essential amino acids here, the ones you can't make. and so they're important to track. And so you can see that apples contain much of the amino acids that you need. So they're pretty good food to eat because 5 of the 8 essential amino acids are present in strong amounts in this food. And so it's a good one to give your body the amino acids that it can't make for itself. And so there's more information below about the actual amounts per cup of things and other vitamins and minerals and so forth. So the site can be searched for any food you want, even fast foods, even foods that are prepared. You can even, if you want to get into the site, you can actually put in recipes, and then it'll calculate the total nutrition data for that entire recipe if you have a cake or something like that you want to make. So you can use this site. It's a really, really great way of helping you out. Certainly you can just use the food labels on the packages of food, but if you can't do that, this site will help you find that information. So if you have any questions about using Excel, check with your proctor. If you have any questions about the assignment, certainly email me. I can be in constant contact as you begin. And certainly when I get back next Monday, we'll talk a little bit more about this project as it goes on. But I hope that you find this a little bit eye-opening, both in the use of Excel to summarize data, but also in what you're eating and how much of calories are going into your body on a daily basis. I think you'll be interested in that. So have a great week this week, guys, and have fun with the project.